All right, question number 10. We want to find intervals where f is increasing or decreasing. All right, we have f of x is equal to 2 times cosine. Now it says squared x, so basically we're looking at cosine x. This is squared. That's the way we need to write it, and we're going on the interval negative pi to positive pi. All right, so on a unit circle, when you go positive, starting from 0, we will get these values over here to where we end up at pi. If you were to go around the unit circle backwards, you'll get the negative values, and so going this direction will get you ending up at negative pi. So on the top half of the circle, we're going to use the positive values, and on the bottom half, we're going to use pretty much the same values, but they're going to be the negative of those values. Okay, so first we're going to find the derivative. All right, so we're going to do the chain rule. So derivative of the outside times the derivative of the inside. So we're going to do 2 times 2, which gives me 4, times cosine of x. And then we're going to do the derivative of cosine of x, which is going to be negative sine of x. We're going to set this equal to 0. Since these are two products, the only way that this is equaling 0 is if sine of x is equal to 0 or if cosine is equal to 0. Either one of those equals 0, the whole thing equals 0. So we're going to try to find out what values between negative pi and pi give us 0 for each of these. So we got 4 cosine of x equals 0. Divide by 4, so cosine x equals 0. So cosine is equal to 0. 1, 0. So x value, x is 1. That happens at this point at 0, 1. So that's pi over 2. And then if you're going backwards, it also happens at negative pi over 2. If you went around the full circle, this would be 9 pi over 6 or 3 pi over 2. But since we want the negative pi, we got pi over 2 and negative pi over 2. So for here, we get x equals pi over 2 and negative pi over 2, those two values. Values that make sine divided by negative 1 is just sine x. It doesn't matter. 0 is not positive or negative. Values that make sine 0 are going to be 0, you get 1, 0, and pi. Pi will give you the order pair negative 1, 0. So we are looking at 0, pi, and negative pi. Okay, so if I were to do a number line, we would say negative pi is here. So we'll just kind of go around the circle this way. So we'll start at negative pi, 0, pi. The negative pi over 2 is here. And then the pi over 2 would be here. So we're going to need to test values in between each of these sections. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections to test using this expression. And again, we're looking for the sign. The actual value of the number doesn't matter. We can probably use a calculator to speed this up, which I think I will. And we just need to make sure we put the calculator in radian mode, because it's kind of running off the screen to trying to get all that on there. So negative pi, I'm going to use the point in between here. Let's just say negative 5 pi over 6. And then in between these, between pi and 0 here, let's just say negative pi over 3. Between 0 and pi, we'll just say positive pi over 3. And then between pi half and here, we'll just say 5 pi over 6. Okay, so these aren't bad. We would just have to plug them into sine and cosine, get the corresponding ordered pair, multiply it, see if it's positive or negative. I can probably do some mental math and get us close. So let's just talk about it. If I plug in 5 pi over 6, so let's talk about this unit circle. There's a acronym, all students take cash. Okay, this helps you remember which trig functions are positive in which quadrant. So all of the trig functions are positive in the first quadrant. Only sine and its counterparts for S, students, sine. Tangent in the third quadrant and cosine in the fourth quadrant is positive. So if I just use this acronym, we can figure out just the sign of these. So let's go through it. So I'm going to do f prime 5 pi over 6. F prime negative pi over 3. F prime pi over 3. And we'll use a calculator to verify once we're done. F prime 5 pi over 6. So I'm just writing it down notation wise. What I would do, I'll plug it in one of them just so you can kind of see it full blown. That would be 4 cosine of negative 5 pi over 6. And then times the negative sine of negative 5 pi over 6. So this is what we'll be doing. Okay, so here's what my mindset is. We are negative 5 pi over 6. We're here in this quadrant. Tangent is positive, so that means this is negative. So I'll get some negative value here. And then I'll also get a negative value here. So sine would be negative, but it's already being multiplied. So negative times a negative is a positive. So I would get a negative value, a positive value. Negative times a positive should give me a positive. So I'm saying that this section is going to be positive. And we'll verify it with the calculator in just a minute. And then I'm going to do the same thing for each one of these. So if I do negative pi over 3, I'm right here in quadrant 4. Traditionally 1, 2, 3, 4. So cosine is going to be positive. So my first value is going to be positive. And then sine will be negative because it's only cosine is positive. But I have a negative, so a negative times a negative will also be positive. Positive times a positive gives me a positive. So I'm saying that this section is also positive. So no sign change. Then when we go to pi over 3 up here, sine and cosine are both positive. Positive times a negative, it's going to come out negative. And then positive times a negative is negative. Did I do that right? On the first one, I said here tangent, so this should be negative. And then this is negative times negative positive. This should be a negative. I don't know, I wrote positive here. This should be a negative. We do get a sign change. So we get a negative and then a positive. And then we get another negative. And then in 5 power 6, we're in this quadrant. So sine is positive. So the first coordinate is negative. Sine is positive, but times a negative is going to become negative again. Negative times a negative, it's going to give me a positive. So this section should be positive. So we got sign flips from negative, positive, negative, positive. Okay, so that's what we believe. I'm going to use this calculator. I'm going to plug in the derivative function. So I'm going to just double check to make sure the mode is in radian mode. Okay, so it's in radian mode. That's good. I'm going to go to y equal. I'm going to type in this function. So 4 cosine x, and then negative sine of x. All right, so I'm going to graph it. I really don't have to see the graph. I just graph it so I can type in values. So I'm going to do second trace. Nope, I don't want to do that second trace. I'm going to go back to graph and I'm going to hit trace. Just hit trace. Trace will allow you to input a value. So I'm going to put in negative 5 power 6. I should get a negative value down here. So when I plug that in for x, my y value should be negative. Don't really care what it is. I'm going to say negative 5 pi divided by 6. All right, so negative 5 pi divided by 6, enter. And we get a y value of a negative 0.17. Okay, so that agrees. And if I do the same thing for each of them, they all should come out negative, positive, negative, positive. So if I do a negative power 3, negative second pi divided by 3. So each time, once you hit trace, it allows you to input any x value, negative power 3. And we get a positive y value. Okay, so negative, positive. And then if we do power 3, so just second pi divided by 3, hit enter, we get a negative value. And then if we do positive 5 power 6, pi divided by 6, we get a positive. Okay, so you can kind of figure that out from the unit circle. The better or the more familiar you are with the unit circle and some of the processes of remembering those, it can kind of help speed up this process, but it does take a little bit of time. All right, so we worked it, we verified it. They asked me to find the derivative first. So we got derivative 4 cosine x times negative sine x. All right, now part 2, we're going to do the increasing and decreasing intervals. All right, so I'm gonna see if I can just type this all with the computer. So I'm gonna do, we want increasing first. So that would be from negative pi over 2 to 0 and pi over 2 to pi. So we're going to say negative, we're going to do forward slash pi, should give me pi divided by 2 to 0. And then the next one was pi over 2. So I'm going to do forward slash pi divided by 2 to pi. All right, so that'll give me my increasing, and then now my decreasing. Negative / pi upon 2 negative power 2. And then we also get 0 to power 2. 0 All right, that looks good.